Here are the writing tips you need to learn how to utilize the dynamic setting the right way and create a story that keeps the tensions high. Join me on the journey toward world building my own story, learning how to write good characters, as well as providing upcoming fantasy writers, authors, and storytellers with all the writing tips they need to make their book or story stand out from all the rest. What is up, you muffin munching muggles? Welcome to Fiction and Reality, where we help you, yes, you, become the most devilishly gifted human that you know you are and that you knew you always could be. Yet another lesson on raising the stakes, but this time by utilizing the dynamic setting within your story. Now, depending on where you live, you may encounter some stranger than usual settings, breeding some stranger than usual events. Whether your environment is kosher and fluffy like a lamb's woolen cotton coat, or a little bit more dire and life-threatening than most.
Get that bag up! Right now!
The police coming, family!
Right now!
Even having all that experience with dynamic settings, it never hurts to have just a smidge more. Let's start with setting time bombs for your story. The one surefire way to make your setting dynamic while raising the pressure and tension within your story is to set in motion a ticking time bomb and assign it to some element of your environment. You need to structure your setting by thinking outside the box, outside of the bare static descriptions of the world that your characters are traversing. My one rule of setting should sort of be like Chekhov's gun, a principle where any object, detail, or character trait introduced early in a story must eventually have a purpose or significance in the plot, or in this case of the ticking time bomb, a set time until detonation, leaving your characters a constricted interval to attain victory or achieve their goals within a high pressure and high stakes environment. Let's take a look at the feather flaunting demon of Dressrosa, for example. Doflamingo activates the birdcage, trapping all of Dressrosa under a strinking dome of razor-sharp strings. This ability allows Doflamingo's threads to cut through buildings, mountains, and people alike. And the kicker is that it's closing in by the second, devouring Dressrosa from the outskirts and constricting towards its center. And the only way to stop it, well, is for Luffy to beat Doflamingo before it's too late, all while saving his monoplegic friend in the process. If you're looking for a way to take full advantage of your dynamic environment, understand that setting a ticking time bomb is not only a countdown for your characters within a given moment, but for the implosion of the tension that has been mounting within your story from one act to another. Aside from the ticking time bomb, if you're looking for a way to maximize leverage of your setting through a dynamic environment, consider changing the core components of the landscape itself through some mechanism of transformation. You all remember that drum guy from Demon Slayer, right? No, the drum guy. Kyogai was a demon we're introduced to who used the demon blood art, which revolves around using drums to manipulate his mansion's interior and exterior. At the bang of his drum, he could shift the axis of the entire mansion left, right, forward, backward, throwing his opponent off balance or even teleport himself and others to different rooms within that mansion. While there are no time constraints, changing the actual conditions of the setting poses a significant challenge to your characters, as they are forced to not only gripe with the enemy at hand, but also the environment as a whole. What's more is that you, as the writer, can choose to give the adversary reign over this environment, just as we see with the drum demon Kyogai, where he has my boy Tanjiro flipping and skipping on skates. Or keep the leverage neutral by having neither party holding the reins on the shifting landscape, making them wrestle both each other and the damning conditions surrounding their conflict, kind of like what we see with Akainu and Aokiji in Punk Hazard. Except I guess losing your leg isn't really a neutral thing. Ultimately, changing landscapes adds an unpredictable layer of conflict, one that tests more than just strength or skill. It forces your characters to think, adapt, and evolve mid-battle. Whether the environment is wielded like a weapon by the enemy, as with Kyogai's drums, or acts as an impartial force of chaos, like the volcanic tundra in Punk Hazard, it demands that your characters fight on multiple fronts, and that right there is where stakes truly come alive, when the ground beneath them is just as much a threat as the enemy in front. Sometimes survival isn't about defeating an enemy, it's about outlasting a world that wants to break you. When the terrain itself becomes a test, it strips your character down to its rawest form. Are you coming to the tree? For Katniss, that began when the Capitol sensed her gaining a threshold of security within the Hunger Games, then retaliated by setting the forest ablaze, forcing her to run through flames while weaving a hell of scorching fire, pluming down around her, setting every parcel of earth into a blaze. Just how strong is your character? Just how far can they be pushed through their journey? Consider utilizing a dynamic setting to measure this parameter. Maybe turn up the heat a bit. Have them climb this seemingly insurmountable mountain, living with hellish creatures unknown to the undead eye. Have them venture through a booby-trapped forest searching for novelty treasures. And you could also have them subscribe. If you're enjoying this video right now, go ahead and leave a like to show some love. The best thing about optimizing your environment through this lens is that it provides an opportunity to cultivate character development by posing obstacles within your character's arc for them to overcome, taking full advantage of their prolonged development while also simultaneously threading into the plot. But it also presents the opportunity to play on an immediate high-stakes, high-pressure situation by manifesting a life or death scenario and establishing a power dynamic between characters, such as with Katniss in the Capitol, who wanted to make it clear that they owned the arena, and at any moment they could change the rules or the terrain. It was a show of dominance both for the tributes and the audience. Be wise with how you manipulate the setting and choose when they should or should not be dynamic. Obviously, if you're not undertaking a scene that requires mounting pressure or tension counting down toward a combustion, then don't feel like it's forced. Let your character's dialogue or actions carry the scene for you, but when your scene calls for a dynamic change in heart-stopping conditions, don't neglect this method as a means to fulfill those stringent conditions. In the end, dynamic terrain isn't just about chaos, it's about revelation. It reveals what your characters are truly made of when the world turns cruel and comfort burns away. It strips them down, challenges their will, and reshapes their arc in real time. So when the moment calls for ignite the force, break the path, collapse the walls, let the world itself become the crucible through which your characters are forged. After all, survival isn't the absence of danger, it's the choice to keep moving through it. If you're looking for a way to make your settings dynamic and increase tension, we all know there's a calm before the storm that shifts the tone from flowers and daisies to bloody hell and blunderbuss. When The Last of Us opened up, we're dropped into Sarah's world in a quiet house, late night TV, her dad coming home late. It's ordinary. It's warm, it's safe. The stillness lingers just long enough for us to get comfortable, maybe even let our guard down. And that's when everything breaks. Sirens, echoes, explosions, boom. The safety of suburbia collapses in real time. That contrast between peace and panic, that's what makes the chaos hit like a shell crunching through our ribcage. Here we can gauge the transition from a static to dynamic environment in its most rawest form, a deafening silence that rolls into deep waves of thundering chaos and hell. The objective shifts from relaxing to panic, and panic to we must escape this hellbound city or else we're going to die. This is the illusion of safety that you can weaponize to snatch your readers out of a slump and entrap their engagement. When you don't expect the unexpected, the potency of those turning points in your plot compounds that much more, accelerating the slope of mounting tension within that given moment of your story, evoking a hellstorm of eagerness and excavating the endgame. Comet trails of destiny and fate are scorched into the earth, and their suspense is teeming with the uncertainty of which path the plot will unfurl in. This deadlock with destiny within both future and present all funnels within their heads, shifting as fluidly as the setting does from static to dynamic, keeping them snatched in the web of possibilities, glued to the woven possibility of treading an unforged path. And your streamlined enactment of this illusion of safety will keep the gears spurring and the pages turning from cover to cover. Moreover, you can utilize the dynamic environment to obstruct your character's journey of chasing a golden gem or acting as a barrier to their pursuit of some object or goal in mind. Rather than forcing them into time constraints or clinging shut doors and pressing them to scope out creative ways to escape their stringent conditions. For the Scouts of Paradise, that Gilded Gem was Grish's basement. But reaching it means surviving betrayals from his former scouts, retaking the city where his home resides, and navigating an explosive battlefield that actively collapses from the monkey's 99 miles per hour fastballs. It's the setting itself that truly makes the battle. Zeke plugging the holes so the scouts were trapped and their horses couldn't pass. The walls forcing Aaron and Reiner to squabble up once again. And another spike in the mounting tension when Berthold decides to nuke the entire district, leaving them forced to battle a colossal titan within the walls. By locking off the Golden Gate behind a sea of death, spiked barb, ringing shells, and mortaring rocks, you weave in the very real possibility of the characters being placed at a deficit, at the very least having to pay a debt to attain whatever goal they are striving for, whether that be getting roasted like a duck, sacrificing the lives of yourself or comrades, or suffering a critical injury that makes the trek toward that goal that much more impactful. Understand that your setting and environment must be spun into motion and elicit this transformation of plot and character growth. In other words, you need to think of your setting as something that's living and breathing, that grows along with the arcs of your characters and develops alongside them relative to the circumstance. I practice this within my own novel as it takes place within a blighted world where the actions of my characters stave off the blight and bring upon a more vibrant, breathing, and living scheme. You can see the results of their actions encompassing their journey to destroy the source of the ashen blight, because the blight begins to recede. actively transforming as they achieve major stepping stones along their path. In truth, the pursuit of a goal means little if the world doesn't push back. When the setting itself claws at your characters, when every inch forward costs blood, breath, or belief, you elevate more than just the stakes. You create a world where triumph must be earned, where the journey leaves a mark far deeper than the reward. While the basement was powerful because it held answers, it was also powerful because of what was lost to reach it. Let your environment evolve alongside your characters, react to their choices, and challenge their resolve. That's when a setting becomes more than just a backdrop. It becomes a force of narrative transformation. If you took something from this video, I want you to take a moment to crack that subscribe button below and like the video. Like the video. It pushes these videos out so that others can take key tokens that you gain. So do your fellow comrades a favor. Remember, the direction of progress is forward and it's only up from here. I'll leave a link to my socials in the description below. If you want more info on how to improve your story, feel free to check out some of my other videos by clicking right here. Writers, world builders, and storytellers aiming to perfect writing techniques and enhance their storytelling and world building are all welcome. And with that, remember, if ever you're lost in forestry words, strip your mind from fantasy and look to the window of the world, and there your mind will run free.